Hello. Today we'll be going over how to create a video from Flash with cross-browser compatibility. Let's start by opening Flash. I've already taken the liberty of creating a file for just that purpose. There's a link below for downloading the asset. The file is 970 by 500 pixels. This is the total area of the transparent video. Let's run it and see what we've got. Now let's try publishing it and see what we have. The green area is the transparent area. You can't see this in the ID because I'm using a bitmap mask on the confetti video. Now find File, Export, and Export Video. But before you click Export Video, let's make sure that you don't have any extraneous frames, because we're going to have to export this and have it stop at the final frame. Awesome. This is where it needs to be. Make sure you have no extraneous frames. Now go ahead and click File, Export, and Export Video. An Export Video dialog will pop up. Make sure that Ignore Stage Color and When Last Frame is Reached is activated. Now browse for an appropriate location where you would like to save your MOV file. I'm going to create a new file on my desktop called Transparent Exported Video. Go ahead and click Save, and then Export. The video will be saved in the location you specified. Come on, let's check it out. We need to go back to the folder we just created, and we can preview this. There you are, Transparent Exported Video. It is a MOV file, and let's run it. We'll have to give QuickTime a second to convert it, and then click play. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. As you notice, there's no more green. The transparent is represented by black. Now, there's no need to save this, since we'll be using the current version of Media Encoder and After Effects to do the final exports. So let's open up After Effects. While After Effects is opening, let's take a second to reflect on what we've learned while After Effects loads. Yes, reflection. It's key. We're still reflecting, and we're going to continue to reflect. And still reflecting. Reflect, and continue to reflect. Now that I've realized that the splash screen needs to be closed before we get started, we can complete our reflection. Let's start by importing the video we exported from Flash with the alpha channel encoding. Just go ahead and drop that into the project, and then drag it to create new composition. Now what we're going to want to do is make sure that it's all running as expected, and it is. From here we can move on. Make sure you go over to Composition, click the project, then Add to Render Queue. You're going to click the output over here, and you should have a dialog box. You want to set this to Alpha. Now we'll run a little test. You're going to think maybe we can save some space by not using millions of colors. And so let's, just for giggles, we'll set it to grayscale. Go ahead and click OK, and go ahead and find the render button. We do want to render this and have it saved to the correct location, so go back to the folder that you created. There you go. Find that render button, click it, and watch it go. Now let's go take a look at that file and see what its output. Again, watch it in QuickTime. This is not at all what we're looking for. There's definitely an alpha problem here and a render issue. So make sure that you use millions of colors. We can go ahead and delete this file. Delete it. Now add it to render queue and go through the same thing again. Add to render queue. Click, set it to alpha, and then leave your set for millions of colors. Perfect. Click OK. And then let's make sure we know what file we're going to be exporting. So go ahead and name it, whatever you feel like naming it. I like to put alpha at the end, so I know. Go ahead and click render. Now that it's finished rendering, we can preview this. Click this, it'll open in QuickTime as a default. And this is exactly what we're looking for. The white spaces are opaque, the black spaces are transparent, and the grays have leveled opacity, or opacity, or opacity, whichever way you want to say it. Now let's drag that alpha in, right-click, and let's change the composition. Because it's 500 high, we want to double it and make this 1000 high. We're going to drag the actual video to the very top. And sometimes this works, and sometimes it doesn't work. I gather it's probably due to the setting of the registration of where it sees 0. But if you just do it slowly and you zoom in, it'll snap to 0, 0. This is exactly what we're looking for. Everything at 0, 0. Here we go. Snapped. Now, let's go ahead and zoom out, and let's drag in your alpha movie right below it. Drag that right below the actual video, and that should snap into place at the very bottom. Now we have both movies running, and the alpha channel information is below the actual video. Go ahead and add this to the render queue one more time. Make sure it's RGB and millions of colors. The setting should be default, and go ahead and click OK. You're going to save this, and I like to append it with something like combined so we know what it is. Go ahead and click render. As this is rendering, we can reflect again on what we've learned, and now we can preview it. It should be 970 wide by 1000 tall. Perfectly synced video with alpha and RGB channels represented. Go ahead and close this, and we're going to do our final export in Media Encoder. Now, many people like to use the Media Encoder directly from After Effects, and maybe I'm just old school. And I like to use Media Encoder as a standalone. It gives me a little bit more flexibility, and sure, it adds an extra step, but these videos that are transparent are typically pretty short. So while that's loading in, and it's loaded, no time to reflect, go ahead and drag the combine in, and we're going to set it for H.264. And I have a preset here called tablet, which is not necessarily what we need, but you want to match source. And then because we want to make this work and not be too big, make sure it's at about, 0.8 megabits per second is pretty okay. And you want to make sure you have the entire clip. And let's go ahead and press. Make sure there's no audio. That should save you some space. And if you look, it's quite small, much smaller than you would imagine. You encode it correctly and it'll be small. Go ahead and press OK. And let's render this. It'll render it in the root folder, and now you have the MP4 in H.264 format. We'll go over here and we'll output a WebM, and this should just match the source, and removes the audio. I have a preset for that, and go ahead and render that. This takes a little bit more time. I'm not sure exactly why, but make sure that you use Vorbis 8 encoding so it covers all your bases. If you use Vorbis 8, WebM, and H.264 MP4, it'll pretty much cover all of your browsers. All of your major browsers in their current versions. Unfortunately, support for HTML5 rendering on canvas is a little bit shoddy in IE 9 and below. Congratulations, you have now created your first transparent HTML5 cross-browser compatible video. Thanks. I'm really glad you took the time to watch this. Have a good day. Have a wonderful day. And please, be safe.